In November of 1960, a handful of believers looked out with eyes of faith and said, this new subdivision called Green Hills needed a gospel presence in it. So a handful of men and women stepped out in faith and began the Green Hills Baptist Mission. In the first 5 years or so, this little mission church met in homes and then right up the street at Dulles Elementary School. Just look at this rare photo of an actual Christmas party right in someone's living room in the early 1960s. That's commitment. The Green Hills mission was led by young mission pastors like Ray Sarter and Cliff Howry, and supported by faithful pioneers like our own Van Dyne family, Yvonne Ruffalo, Rebecca Palmer, and Debbie Barnes. In a demonstration of great faith, this small body of believers began to dream of a bigger gospel impact. In 1963, they called their first full-time pastor, Jerry and Louise Tillman. Think about that. This small group of 40 to 50 people said, we are going to assume the responsibility to pay a young family to move from Tennessee to Southern California and trust that God will provide the finances to support them. But the walk of faith didn't end there. Dr. Richard Bates, pastor of First Baptist Church of La Mirada, saw this subdivision going in and saw this piece of land on the corner of Brass Lantern and Imperial and said, God, I believe that you want a church right here. And so with the help of the Knox County Baptist Association and First Baptist Church of La Mirada, God provided the money to purchase these 3.25 acres. I sure wish they had the faith to purchase 10.25 acres. This level of faith was required to see, to envision what was not yet theirs. Then this little but faithful group of people led by Pastor Jerry Tillman said, God, we believe you want us to have a tool to house this assembly of believers and a place to launch the gospel in this area. With great faith, they sacrificed time, money, and this church was built. Now, you may not know this, but shortly after the building was built and the zeal to spread the gospel was fueled, Pastor Jerry Tillman approached a young couple named Carlos and Mary Cordova, a family who had just begun to attend, and asked them if they would start a Spanish-speaking Bible study. 50 years ago, God anointed the very first pastor to foster deep in the core of our DNA a passion to build a multi-language, multi-generational community of believers. And so the ministry grew, souls were saved, and a community was impacted, all within the first 10 years.
We've been going to the Methodist church downtown, and since 1956. And it was a wonderful church at that time. And when we moved here, it was only 2 blocks from our house. And so we came down and met all the people, and they were so kind and friendly, and so that we just made it our church home.
And we lived at that time over in Roland Heights, and we couldn't find a church over there, so we drove back over here. And after we could, we bought a house over here.
Okay, Pastor Tillman was a real basic teacher of the Bible. He hit home for me, really. He just was just wonderful. Young guy, like we were about all the same age, really.
Gary was the first pastor who was sensitive to Margaret's Catholic recovery and was able to, that's my reading, maybe it's not yours, but
yeah.
So she started coming.
The church I went to before was much smaller. And so coming to here, and it was a brand new building, you had this big, huge auditorium type sanctuary. It was kind of awe-striking for a little child. I do remember Reverend Tillman's sermons. Sometimes he would get pretty worked up. And in fact, sometimes he'd even lose his voice, he got so worked up. But yeah, like my dad said, he was very biblical. He didn't hold any punches. You know, he said what the Spirit told him to say, and that was pretty much it. Green Hills has always been a biblical church. They've been always diversified. There's always a place for everybody here. We had softball teams, we had bowling teams, we had people who like to go camping. Later on, the Awanas. There was always something for everybody to do, which a lot of churches lack. They have one structured thing. We're going to do it this way, and that's the way it is. If you don't like it, there's other churches to go to. But Green Hills has maintained that. And I think that's the thing that people feel so much, so welcome here, because there's always something for everybody here, and that does go a long way.
My father was a pastor, and we went to a lot of different places. I went to 9 grade schools, 2 high schools, and so our kids, they always wanted to move somewhere, but we said, hey, we're not moving anywhere. I've never had a home church, so that's like, this is it. Not that was our reason for staying, it just happened. That was God's kept us here, so it turned into a home, which I really needed, because I had been bounced all